Good morning everyone and welcome to Wells Virtual Carnival. My name's Dr. Steve and I'm going to be taking you through some science experiments this morning. Things that you can try at home with your kids. You will need some supervision and hopefully we'll have some fun and we'll learn some things as well. Right, before we start, what I'd like to do is just give you some resources for the sort of places I've found these experiments. Nowhere particularly drastic. There's some really good ones on the Institute of Physics, their Try This at Home section, and you can see the web address there. That's well worth trying, and I'm going to do 2 of them today. Also the Dummies website at dummies.com, they've got some really good kiddie science. There's a book called 100 Science Experiments that's from Usborne, which is very good, or just put science experiments into the search engine and see what comes out. There's a lot of things out there and there's some really good resources there. But let's have a look. What we have planned are 5 experiments. We're going to start off with an optical illusion. Then I'm going to look at how to make your own pH indicator, and we'll talk a little bit about pH as well. We'll then do the classic volcano experiment, which we'll do outside because it could get a little bit messy. Then we'll look at how to make your own fire extinguisher using some of the principles that we learnt in the volcano experiment. And finally, for our finale, we'll look at how to defy gravity with just a dishcloth. Okay. Right, for our first experiment, we're going to create an optical illusion. What I've done here is I've drawn 2 arrows on a piece of paper and I've folded the paper like that so that it can stand up like so. The other prop is a glass which I'm going to put here in front of the arrows, and finally I'm going to pour some water into the glass and let's see what happens. Hopefully what you can see now is that the arrow that the water has covered has flipped to the opposite direction to the top arrow. So what's been happening here? We move the props out of the way. What's happened here is as the light from the tip of the arrow moves and enters the water in the glass, it actually slows down. And when it slows down, it changes direction, as you can see here. And then as it comes out of the glass and into the air again, it changes direction again because it changes speed. So we've got all of the points of light coming from the top of the arrow, moving down and converging at this point here, whereas the light coming from the bottom of the arrow does the opposite, refracts in that direction, and we've got that at the top now. So effectively we've used the water to slow down the light, something known as refraction, and that has caused the arrow to flip directions. Have a try with some different shapes, maybe write some words in backwards and see if you can make them look the right way around, and have a play. Right, for the next experiment we're going to look at pH. So before we get going, just a quick reminder about the pH scale. As you'll know, pH is a way of measuring whether a substance, whether a solution is an acid or a base, and it's based on a scale from 1 to 14. Now slap bang in the middle at 7 we have neutral solutions, so things like tap water, depending on which part of the country you're in, might well be neutral. Anything with a pH of 1 to 6 is known as an acid or as acidic. The lower the number here, the stronger the acid. So a very strong acid would have a pH of 1. Going to the other end of the scale, anything from 8 up to 14 is known as an alkali or a base. And in this case, the higher the number, the stronger the alkali or the base is. So a number of 14 would be a very strong alkali, maybe something like sodium hydroxide that you'd use for unblocking drains. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to try and make an indicator to tell us the pH of a range of solutions that we might have around the home. Now you will need help from an adult with this because we are using hot water, we're using a sharp knife, could get a little messy, so I've put my lab coat on, so it might be worth wearing an apron. This will stain if it gets on your clothes or furniture, so please be very careful. Got the safety specs on and we're ready to go. So all we're going to use today is red cabbage. Got some hot water here, warm water, and a sieve which I've lined with some kitchen roll just to help to extract some of the, or to filter out some of the red cabbage. Now I've cut up a small portion of red cabbage already, so here's some I prepared earlier and I put it in the bottom of the blender. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to break up the red cabbage cells to release the red colour or the purple colour, the anthocyanins as they're technically known as. You could boil them in a pan to do that. What I'm going to do here is I'm simply going to put some hot water into this blender. I'm going to attach the blender on top, making sure it's securely fastened on top because this is hot water, so we don't want it splashing us. And I'm just going to push this. Hopefully we'll see the solution as we break up So you can see on there you've already got the solution coming out. So that's the anthocyanins. Right. We're now going to sieve this to get rid of all of the red cabbage bits. So I'm using the same bowl I had before, putting the sieve over and just passing it through, and hopefully we'll have this nice coloured solution with all the red cabbage still in the sieve. So we've nicely cooled that. Just a little bit more like an episode of Bake Off than a science experiment at the moment. Anyway, we've now got this lovely bluey purple indicator solution. So this is what's going to tell us the pH of our different solutions. Again, we have some we prepared earlier. We have 3 glasses. This glass here, put some vinegar. I've used clear vinegar in this particular case so that we can see the colour change a little bit better than if we'd used malt vinegar. In the middle one we've got just plain tap water, and in this one here with the spoon in I've just got some tap water and I put a bit of bicarbonate of soda in there. So let's go first with the water, and that stayed pretty much similar colour to what we've got here, purpley blue. So that is relatively neutral, so that's around about pH 7. If we look at the vinegar, that's got a nice pinky red colour. So vinegar, as we know, is an acid, so this red colour indicates that we've got an acid here. And finally the bicarbonate of soda, that's gone a different blue as you can see from the neutral one. So this is indicating that bicarbonate of soda is an acid or a base. So this has worked really nicely. We know we've got an acid here, we know we've got the base here, so we can see the colour change that's happened. The water is neutral, so pH 7, and that stayed pretty much the same colour as our extract or our indicator solution. What you need to do now is maybe go and try and find a few things around the house. Maybe try some fizzy drinks, some lemon juice, some fruit juice, even go and get some soil out of the garden, shake it up in a bottle or something, and then look at the solution that comes off the top of that. Measure the pH. You could even get some kitchen roll or thick blotting paper, dip it in your solution, take it out, let it dry, and then use that to just dip into the different solutions to find out what the pHs are. And that's it for pH. Thank you. Volcanoes are amazing forces of nature, erupting into the sky, throwing molten rock or lava high into the sky and down the sides of the mountains. And that's what we're going to try and simulate here this morning in the garden. We've deliberately come outside into the garden. If you're doing anything that's messy, requiring a lot of tidying up, well worth trying it in the garden if you can, or somewhere that's not going to cause a lot of problems for your mum and dad. Right, as we're real scientists, we've got our safety glasses on. We've got our pens in the top pockets of our lab coat, which is very important. What we're going to do is, as you can see here on this tray, we've made a very, very simple volcano. Hopefully you'll do something a lot better than this. I've just used some soil from the garden. You can use papier-mâché, you can paint it, you can make it look really exciting, maybe use some modelling clay. Just let your imagination go wild and it'll be fantastic. But for today, I've just used a bit of soil. What we're going to do to actually make the volcano itself, we've got this little plastic bottle here, which is the chamber of the volcano. And what I'm going to do into that is I've got about 200 mils of vinegar. So you want to put about half the volume of the vinegar into there. I'm using a funnel so I don't spill it everywhere. Especially when I'm on camera and my hands are shaking, that wouldn't be such a good thing. So, we've got the vinegar in there. Now if you remember, vinegar's an acid, so that's going to be important later when we talk about what's happened here. Now, so that we get the nice lava flow coming out the top, got some washing up liquid, so we want to create some bubbles. So I'm going to put a few squirts of washing up, let's put a bit more in, a bit more washing up liquid in there, and I'm going to use my very unauthentic spatula, which is a straw today, to give that a little bit of a stir, just to make sure it's mixed up. So as you may well know, acids react with bases or alkalis. So what we're going to use for the alkali today is some bicarbonate of soda. I'm just going to take a teaspoonful, and hopefully that will do the trick. I'm putting it onto an envelope so that I can easily get it into here. Okay. Now I'm going to put the bicarbonate of soda into the volcano. I can see it sizzling, it's coming up. Let's hope it comes a bit quicker. There we go. I don't know if you can see all the white bubbles there that are coming up. So if you think about what's happening here, you've got the acid of the vinegar, which is reacting with the alkali or the base of the bicarbonate of soda. The bicarbonate of soda is releasing carbon dioxide, and the carbon dioxide is bubbling through the solution. It's interacting with the washing up liquid we put in there to make this lovely foam, and the carbon dioxide is pulling out the top. It's actually coming round a bit better on my side, so if I turn it round so you can see it, and it's just coming out of the top. So if we just recap that, we've had the vinegar, the acid, the bicarbonate of soda, which is the alkali. The two of them have reacted together to form carbon dioxide. So that's a gas, as you know, CO2 or carbon dioxide. That's bubbled through the solution, reacted with the washing up liquid, so the soap, and it's produced all these lovely bubbles, which are now coming down the side of my volcano. As I say, much better to be outside than inside, and yeah. What you could do to make it better is, if you've got some food dye in the kitchen, put a bit of red food dye in. It's going to look like lava a bit more, maybe put some different colours in. What would happen if you put more bicarbonate of soda in? Would it react more quickly? Would it be more violent? What would happen if you had a bigger diameter for the head of the volcano, or if you had a smaller diameter? Lots of things to try, lots of things to experiment with, so have some fun. We're going to take what we've just learned from our volcano experiment about the production of carbon dioxide or CO2, and we're going to try and turn that into a fire extinguisher. So we've got two candles, each in a different glass. In the bottom of each one we've put some vinegar. This one here is going to be the control, so we're not going to generate any carbon dioxide in there to prove that that one stays alight. This one, we're going to add some bicarbonate of soda to the vinegar, so the base to the acid to produce the carbon dioxide, and hopefully put the candle out. So, I'm going to add the bicarbonate of soda. You can see straight away we've got that foam that we saw in the Volcano Experiment. We've not got the soap here, so it's not quite as bubbly as it was in the other one. That carbon dioxide is actually heavier than oxygen. And as you know, oxygen is one of the three things that we need for fire to be created or to be maintained. So the carbon dioxide now will be rising up the glass, hopefully pushing the oxygen away from the flame and then going out. This one over here, our control, is going away quite nicely. It's starting to go, I think. As with all science experiments, there's nothing wrong with trying to change things a little bit. Let's put a bit more bicarbonate of soda in. Let's get a bit more carbon dioxide generated. And again, what we can do to further experiment is we can trap the carbon dioxide in there by putting a lid on it. But we've got to put a lid on the control as well to prove that putting the lid on, as you can see, it's gone out there. We can see the control is still alight. I'm going to take them off because if we left them on too much longer, the control would go out as well as the oxygen was burnt up. So what's happened here, again, just to recap very, very briefly, we've had a fire in the glass, we've had a lit candle, we put a little bit of vinegar in the bottom. The acid of the vinegar has reacted with the bicarbonate of soda that we've put in there. It's produced carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide has risen up the glass and that's pushed the oxygen away from the flame and that has put the fire out. We've had to experiment on this occasion. It didn't work first time round. Nothing wrong with that. In science, things tend not to work first time. You've got to try and adapt things, change things. So that's what we did. We put some more bicarbonate of soda in to produce more carbon dioxide. We then put a lid on to trap the carbon dioxide in there. So we've played around with things, and that's what you should always look to do with your science experiments. With this, obviously, we've got lit candles, so please make sure you have an adult with you if you do try this one. And that's it for carbon dioxide. Right, for the last experiment for this video, we're in the garden again, so it's got the potential to get a little bit messy. I really hope it doesn't in this one because I could get very wet. What we're going to do in this experiment is we are going to defy gravity using a normal dishcloth, which sounds quite impressive, and we'll look at that in a moment. Gravity, as I'm sure you're all aware, is the force that causes that water to fall from the glass and into the jug. Now, other forces that will be working on the glass are surface tension, which would be working around the lip of the glass, and air pressure, which wouldn't be having very much in this particular case. Now, when you've got a large gap like that, surface tension is very weak. However, have you ever noticed when you see insects on a pond and some of them seem to be walking across the pond? That is using surface tension. If we look down here at this glass, and this is another really good example of surface tension. If you try filling a glass, sometimes you notice that you actually look like you've overfilled it and there's a big bit of a lip on the top which is holding the water in. That's called a meniscus, and that is down to surface tension. And if we go back to talking about the insects that walk on the water, if we use this paper clip here, normally we'd expect the paper clip to fall to the bottom of the glass, but hopefully we've made it float on the top of the glass, and that is surface tension. So in the right conditions, surface tension can be a very powerful force. However, if you destroy the surface tension, like that, the paperclip will sink to the bottom. So that's something to play around with later. So, that is surface tension. Where does the dishcloth come in? Right. just to prove that this dishcloth has lots of holes in it, I'm going to pour this water through the dishcloth, and as you can see, it went through very easily through those holes. So it's not a waterproof dishcloth. Now for, hopefully, the impressive bit. We are now going to use the surface tension that this cloth creates. Now, you saw the water go through. The water went through because there's lots of very small holes in this cloth. When we poured the water out of the glass before, we had a big hole and the surface tension wasn't enough to stop the water falling out. Now we've got lots of little holes, and little holes are very good for having an increased surface tension. So I'm hoping that the surface tension from all these little holes are going to be greater than the force of gravity and will keep the water in the glass. For a very good reason, the glass is going to be turned upside down on top of my head. Fingers crossed. If I've got a different t-shirt on in the next shot, you know it didn't work the first time. Right, I'll now ask my beautiful assistant to come and help me and turn it upside down. So remember, we've got the dishcloth across the top, the holes there, the water should have a very strong surface tension, hopefully, otherwise I'm going to get wet. And now, if we just try it, fortunately we were right, and the surface tension is greater than the force of gravity. So as long as the surface tension stays like that, the water will stay in the glass. However, if the surface tension was removed, then you know what would happen. Ooh! I get completely soaked. So that's the end for this experiment. Do try this at home. Maybe don't get quite so wet as I did, but hopefully you've enjoyed what we've done and have fun experimenting yourselves. Thanks. Bye.